Right there.
Yes. So figure out where it's Sir. Yes.
It is 2 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting to order. First, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Summertime is always difficult with people having personal plans, and this month we have a conflict for the KCO meeting and a KLC training. So thank you all for being here and for also sending proxies so we're able to conduct this business. Additionally, it's a little unique meeting because none of our executive committee is able to be here in person, so they asked me to chair the meeting. So bear with me as I give this my first opportunity of trying to chair one of these board meetings. So I will conduct the roll call. Ms. Diana Arnold. Mr. Travis Buchanan for the Honorable Scott Bates.
Here.
Honorable John Black. Honorable Bernard Bowling.
Here, online.
Thank you. Honorable Byron Chapman. Thank you. I see him here. Honorable Jack Kaufman. Honorable Troy Ethington.
Here.
Mr. Chris John Streets for the Honorable Jeff Gahan.
Here.
Honorable Nicole George for the Honorable Craig Greenberg.
Here.
Ms. Janice DeWeese for the for Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges.
Here.
Honorable Maria Johnson. Honorable John Park for the Honorable Dane Ison.
Here.
Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable John Ogburn.
Here.
Mr. Matt Munay, or excuse me, Honorable Carol Pike.
Here.
Mr. Kevin Beatty for the Honorable Ryan Ramsey.
Here.
Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
Honorable Scott Travis.
Here.
The Honorable Kevin Nuss for the Honorable David Vogel.
Here.
We do have a quorum. The first item of business is the May board meeting minutes. You all should have received those by email, and they're also on your packet. So I'll give you all a minute to review, and if I could get a motion for approval.
Make a motion.
Got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed. The next item is the Kentucky State-wide Hazard Mitigation Plan. We are honored to be joined by Nick Grinstead. He's the Planning Grants Manager and Program Coordinator for the Hazard Mitigation Program Office at the University of Kentucky. I worked with Nick for many years. Again, welcome, Nick.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me participate in your board meeting. I am here today in order to be considerate of your old time. I'm here today on the draft being here. The state has mitigation plan. Part of the state has mitigation plan process. So the state has mitigation plan has the state has to have a hazard mitigation plan in order for local governments to have a hazard mitigation plan. And one of the components of the state hazard mitigation plan is to ask your all's advice or ask your all's input about like your feelings towards your capability to do hazard mitigation projects. So to be, like I said, to be considerate of your all's time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to in order to ask the question of you all about how you feel about your capability to do both, positive and negative to do hazard mitigation projects, I'm going to focus on one of the reasons why we do the local hazard mitigation plans in order to show how complicated an application can be, and then to let that, prompt, whether or not, how you feel about being able to do applications. So the awkward title of this presentation is the purpose of hazard mitigation planning. But the purpose of, so KIPDA had, you all have all of your local governments have a hazard mitigation plan. Thanks to KIPDA, it's a multi-jurisdictional, multi-hazard mitigation plan. All of you all have adopted this plan. And the reason why you all have, and you all, and Jared said, we've worked together for years. And the reason why, and you all done the hazard mitigation plan, this is, I think, your fourth time. The reason why you all done so is in order to do the following. What did you do? As it took the client, it's not what you're following. Well, in order to do the following, to be eligible for 3 of FEMA hazard mitigation grant programs. The core purpose of the hazard mitigation plan is to be eligible for 3 external funding programs. The hazard mitigation grant program that comes out of presidential disaster declarations, the flood mitigation assistance program that comes around every year, and what's going to be the focus of this short presentation, the building resilient infrastructure and communities program, which is another yearly grant program, relatively new. It was released in 2020, and its purpose is to do essentially big things. It wants to fund large scale infrastructure, complicated projects, multifaceted, multi-county projects. Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, this is the fundamental purpose, to be eligible for these 3 programs. You do a planning process in order to identify risk and in order to identify projects that you would then later want to use these programs to pursue. So, like I said, one of those programs is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. That program, it comes around every year. Every year it has so far come around at the same time every year. So this year, you're going to look out at September 30th. In September, KYM will give a courtesy notice saying on October 1st, the BRIC grant will open. But the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, will be released sometime in September, and the grant application period will open in October of this year, and the grant application period will close in January, at the end of January of next year. So it'll be so you only have 3 months, effectively 3 months, because December, the reason why they give you an extra month is December. No, it's the holidays. So you effectively have 3 months to apply for a huge project. The BRIC program is it has a 75% federal share. It has a 25% local share. So for every project that you pursue, FEMA will refund you 75% of the cost of that project. But that also means, as a matter of capability, that your local jurisdiction must be able to front 25% of the project. Now, if you can make a case for your community being an economically disadvantaged rural community, what used to be called small and impoverished communities, the federal government can, and you have to make that case in the application. Again, talking about capabilities. The federal government is able to pay 90% of the federal share, 90% of the total project cost, 10% local share. Okay, so the purpose of BRIC, again, for the purpose of this presentation, the purpose of BRIC is that, like I said, it is that what we hear, like messaging very clearly is how much money there is. Last year, there was like $2.25 billion. The year before that, it was like 1.5, is, you know, it's still billions of dollars. This year,
Fortunately.
And the grant program is set up to keep receiving large amounts of money. Essentially, the grant program's funding source is a function of all of the disaster declarations that go throughout the county. So essentially, FEMA takes a portion of the disaster declarations all throughout and puts it in a separate pot for BRIC. So long story short is, every year expect billions of dollars to be in the BRIC, to be available every year. So that's the message that we hear, oh, billions of dollars. But we don't hear all of what goes into the application, what all has to be thought about to do a BRIC application. So yes, the first point to take into consideration when applying for BRIC is that it is highly competitive. And that actually is where the application gets complicated. It's competitive in the sense that what FEMA is going to do is they're going to approve your application, review your application in terms of its priorities for that year. So you're going to look for the NOFO, for the Notice of Funding Opportunity for this year, for example. And the first thing you're going to go to is you're going to go to the priorities. You know, what does FEMA want to look for? Because they're literally going to review your application according to those priorities. If you do an application that doesn't meet any of those priorities, then you get they do a point system. I'll go through that in a second. They do a point system, and if your application scores low points because it's not meeting the priorities, then it's not going to be. I mean, you have a very low chance of it being approved. So long story short is, you know, FEMA tells you exactly what it wants to do in the NOFO, but you benefit in being able to be approved for your project by hitting multiple priorities. So in other words, so BRIC is takes competition seriously. It is a highly competitive program. Your project is also a nationally competitive program. It's the 2.25 or $2.295 billion last year was, you know, nationwide. Yeah, so yeah, you get my point. Okay, so yeah, so the BRIC priorities, generally speaking, last year, and they were in 2021 too. So all 2021 also. And so they'll probably be similar this year as well. But they wanted applications that incentivize natural hazard risk activities, that mitigated public infrastructure and disadvantaged communities. So like systems type applications and populations that are especially vulnerable, vulnerable. They had a priority to incorporating nature-based solutions. They had a priority to enhancing climate resilience and adaptation. They had building codes comes up a lot. They had anything that deals with building code. That's a whole separate issue. We can talk about that. If you're ever interested in a building code project, by the way, if you need building code training materials or you want to enhance your code enforcement, come talk to me, Jenny, Joe. There's all three grant programs just want to get money. So anyway, I'll gloss over building codes. The point is, if your project deals with building codes, high up on the list, and also encouraging hazard mitigation. If the application meets multiple federal agencies' priorities, it gets high on. So that's generally what they were last year. They'll probably be similar this year, I would imagine. Yeah, priorities were the same for 2021, 2022. This is beating a dead horse. They want infrastructure project. They want projects that benefit disadvantaged communities, projects that incorporate nature-based solutions, climate change adaptation projects that help enhance codes. So here's what I wanted to show you for illustration. Okay. So you have 3 months to apply for a BRIC grant, and they want you to do and in order to be reviewable, in order to have a chance of being approved, you need to look at your application needs to touch on these things. Okay, so if your project, it can be argued to be a truly infrastructure project, 20 points. If your project incorporates nature-based solution, it was 10 points. If your project, the third bullet point we automatically hit, but if you're if the state abides by the National Building Code, we're one National Building Code behind, or so we're like, I think we're the 10 or 20, 10 point, you get 10 points. If your community participates in the building code effectiveness grading schedule and you have a rating of 1 to 5, you get an extra 20 points. If your application, this will be a capability, a positive capability I'll talk about in a second. If your application is the result of you doing what was effectively a pre-application called a project scoping application, you get another 10 points. If you're able to contribute more than 25% of the cost share, Or alternatively, if your project, the detail in that is that you can, as an individual county or city, you can only apply for you can apply for $50 million. That's the max of it. So if your project is like $100 million, you're obviously covering more of the local share than 25%, because it'll only cover 50 million of it. But the point is, if you can cover more of your local share, an extra 5 points. If you can show that your community is considered by the CDC as being a socially vulnerable community, or an economically disadvantaged rural community, an extra 15 to 30 points in your application. Okay, so that's getting out the door. You want to touch on those points to get, your application needs to touch on. Then they'll look at your application according to qualitative value. They'll do a qualitative evaluation of your application. Have you argued in your application that your project reduces risk and adds resiliency? And what that ends up being is, can you show that it not only passes a benefit cost analysis for like primary benefit, but can you show secondary benefits? Like it not only immediately helps a situation, but also has I don't know, maybe water quality benefits, or maybe some other ancillary benefit. But you have to be able to show that, and it has to be clear enough that they can qualitatively evaluate it and potentially up to 35 extra points. Can you argue that your application deals with climate change or some other future condition? As again, qualitative, they have to be able to feel like that's up to 20 points. Are you able to? This is a fun one. So every application that you do has to have a set of milestones. Obviously, if you're going to apply for a project, you then give a set of milestones, a rough set of milestones. But milestones are, there's a difference between an application, the application stage, then 5 years later when that was a bad, but it's a difference, like the milestones are not necessarily set in stone. So if you can provide FEMA an implementation plan along with your application, where you know that, hey, FEMA, if you fund this in 2 years, then we know we can do this on this date, and this, like give a true plan for implementation of the project that's just beyond a list of milestones, that's potentially up to 15 points. So those are qualitative. No, there's more qualitative evaluation. I thought I was done. There's population impacted. If you can demonstrate that you have an especially vulnerable population, again, demonstrate clearly up to 25 extra points. If in order to do the application, you conducted community engagement and other outreach activities, you must be able to describe it and document those activities, an extra 5 points. If you can show that you have leveraged partnerships, so your application, your project idea, your application, your implementation, maybe some of the cost share, and you have other either private agencies or nonprofits, or maybe another maybe you've aligned the stars and another state agency. You can leverage partners, potentially up to 15 points, additional points. Oh, did I in there? Okay. Well, so that's a lot of stuff to put into an application in 3 months. And so, that's to illustrate, so, and if you don't have this stuff in there, like if you have very little amount of points, then your application is not going to be, it has a very low chance of being approved. So that's supposed to prompt that's like I said, supposed to prompt my asking you all how you feel about being able to do something big like this. But before I do that, let me talk about positives. Okay. So yes, the BRIC program is it's all about big projects and taking your time to do something big, taking the time necessary to do something big. So FEMA does, and they now do it under all 3 grant programs, but FEMA does does allow you to, does give you some capability to do that stuff itself. FEMA, so one of the ways it does so is through what they call capability and capacity building projects. It's a terrible acronym. The acronym has an ampersand in there, which is not like the universal symbol, so I don't know why that's in there as part of it, but it's a C and CB activity. All 3 grant programs allow it. This is supposed to help you be able to do something. All these activities are supposed to be able to help you to do something like a BRIC, like a large scale infrastructure project. Let's see. That's all detail. That's minutia. If you want to read that or ask me about that, we can deal with that. But these are essentially, so the BRIC program offers this. Now the hazard mitigation grant program offers this as of just a month ago or a couple months ago. The hazard mitigation grant program offers this. The flood mitigation assistance grant program offers this. You have the ability to apply for separate grants to do, building codes is one thing, but to do partnerships, to do project scoping, or to do planning. Project scoping is the big capacity builder. That's a great project type. But going briefly, building code activities, like I said, if you have any building code activities, let me know. There's tons of, but anyway, okay. So BRIC, FMA, HMGP allows you to apply for money to do a partnership grant. So the idea is that now you have to be able to describe the deliverable. They have to have something in the file to, but ultimately the idea is towards that leveraging partnerships, towards that, maybe needing to align the stars to get cost share fully funded, adequately funded, efficiently funded. FEMA allows you to apply for a grant that, says, look, we want to, before we can even start on something huge, like a multi-county project or an infrastructure project or a project with multiple ancillary benefits, before we can even start that, we've got to get partners on board. We need the time, we need the staff, maybe meeting documentation, et cetera. You come up with maybe a strategy that you would use as a deliverable, but just setting up those partnerships, that pre-work, FEMA provides money for. That's a capability enhancer. The project scoping is my favorite. Literally FEMA will pay for the ability to do all parts of the application before you apply. So it's a true scoping of the project. If you have an idea, a big idea that you want to pursue, but I mean, applications can be very time consuming, it can be very expensive. You're going to need, regulatory costs can be high. You need engineering or studies, RTO studies, environmental studies, those can be costly. Benefit cost analysis, you're doing a large scale project. KYM, we have very effective benefit cost expertise, but some project, a large scale project is going to require more, nuanced benefit cost analysis. You might need, the outside help or whatever for benefit cost analysis. Point is, you can develop your application almost wholly beforehand and then use that application to apply to a future funding cycle. So you apply for a project scope in 2023 and then do the project scope, have it get approved in sometime in 2024, get the project scope done in 2025, and then apply for the 2025 break or 2026 break or HMGP. Use it. HMGP would be, if I had more time, I'll wait about HMGP, but definitely, but you would have an application ready to go. That's a capability enhancer. FEMA will provide, and we actually have a couple of those in the state right now, project scope. One very successfully done, just last month. So those are capability enhancers. Obviously, I say project scope is my favorite, but obviously planning activities are my favorite. So if you ever have a planning grant or idea, please, by all means, these are the grants that I manage. Planning related activities can also be very capability enhancing for your communities because the sole driver of a plan project under FEMA is that it enhances your current local hazard mitigation plan. So local hazard mitigation plan, by definition, by regulation, by reality, it covers a lot of stuff kind of superficially. So you need a deeper dive, a more nuanced risk assessment, a more personalized risk assessment for your community. You need, better mitigation actions or more thought out mitigation actions. Plan related activities are a mechanism by which to do so. I have a lot of them running throughout the state right now. So I can be an effective source for doing a plan related activity. Anyway, I will stop anticlimatically there. Yeah, FMA offers the same thing. HMGB offers the same thing. I will stop anticlimatically there in order to, like I said, I'll probably still use up too much time, but is it clear what I'm saying about like capabilities, like capacity, that, the BRIC application can be a lot, but there is technically some federal help with that, with the way FEMA structured things. So now I want to ask you all awkwardly at this point, how do you feel about your capabilities to do a BRIC type of project? Like, have you tried to do a BRIC project, or have you wanted to do a BRIC project, a large scale infrastructure project? I'm about to be more specific here. Yeah, let me shut up and let you all answer that question. How do you all feel about your ability, about your capabilities? Let's see if there's.
Yeah, good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, could you give some examples? I mean, I think that's maybe what's missing.
Yes.
About brick and mortar, planning, like give some examples.
So here's an example right here, is that are there any local government policies? This is one I definitely have no idea what the answer is to this. I'll be dead upon this. But we've had to answer this before. But are there at the county or city level? Now, I can tell you about state policies, right? We have state policies to help you out with, with mitigation projects, especially in large scale ones. But the local level, are there policies, whether formal or informal, programs, maybe places you can go to, or whatever, that would make doing a large scale brick application more biteable, chewable, more thank you, digestible would be a much better word, more digestible. And here's, I think, what I had, and to give you
Nick,
specifics.
this isn't helping me.
In hindsight, that would help me either. Here's what I had in the last plan for this, right? So in order to, the 2018 plan also asked about local government capabilities in the same manner. And at that time, we said things like flood management ordinances help. If you're a community rating system participant, you help. If you have zoning regulations, that helps with being able to, I guess, identify mitigation projects, subdivision, fire prevention codes. Some has stormwater management plans, emergency operation plans. The problem with this list that I would like your all's advice with is that that's very response and like regulatory oriented. Community emergency response teams, local emergency management planning teams. Now the ads are, no matter what, the ads are an effective capability because they help with applications by nature and by legislation but outside of the ad, so that's what we put in last time. So maybe my examples of this is what we put in last time, but it's not adequate this time. Are there anything else like at the local level besides just that would be able to help you, do an application? Is there other staffing? Are there, I don't know, are there regional or local programs that you all are involved with that, that provide, I don't know, funding assistance or the ability to find funding or coordinate funding? Open-ended.
I think what the judge and we're asking is, what can we use these funds for? Can we use them for infrastructure projects?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a 100-year-old courthouse
Yes.
that has like 15 entrances and they have circuit court there. And my judge is afraid because there's too many entrances.
Right.
Is it to replace a building? Is it to build
It
a
could be.
dam on a river so people won't get flooded? Sewer system.
Yes, it can. Okay, so
Water and infrastructure, type project.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I apologize. I should have been, a hazard mitigation project, a brick type project, HGP, they can fund potentially all those examples to, the purpose of a project is to, the purpose primarily are capital projects. It's the ability to do capital projects and they're projects that prevent the effects from future hazards. So if you needed to move the courthouse out of a floodplain, so you wanted to, or elevate structures, drainage projects, massive drainage projects, you need to do, that's some of the nature-based solutions are generally about drainage, slowing down the water flow. Safe room projects for wind, if you need community safe rooms, or safe rooms for earthquakes, or safe rooms for, let's see, other project types, larger scale. Why am I drawing? We don't really do much.
How about mitigation? I have like 3 rivers
Mhm.
in our county. You talked about mitigation, mitigation for what I'm gonna say, service pumps to pump water
Station.
rising back up on the backside to pump back over the flood wall to
Right.
send it on down the river. Those types
of projects.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Yes, we've done, actually, flood walls, but we've done flood walls. We've done, what's the type of flooding where you go through the bottom, the dry flood proofing and wet flood proofing.
Yes.
But like you said, pump stations, lift stations, we've done those. Foundations. I think the elevation, we'll do elevation as a project type. And the reason, I guess, part of the vaguity is to FEMA's credit. Like I said, the goal was to mitigate the effect from a natural hazard that's been identified in your plan. And to that end, so FEMA, the Hazard Mitigation Assistance Guidance, will give you a list of project types that they're willing to do, but that's not an exhaustive list. And that's part of the brick of messaging is that, some projects need all of those things combined, or they need culvert expansions, they need drainage, they need slowing down of water nature-based solutions, they need a bunch of properties elevated or critical infrastructure elevated. Maybe they need secondary benefits, maybe they have energy concerns, so you have a water treatment plants, whatever, so you need to deal with them, but you also need to deal with the connection that the water treatment plant has with the other counties. There's a creativity component to some of this as well. So that's where the larger scale comes in. So those type of projects, capital projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, I apologize for not being, that was me being a weirdo. No, I didn't. Totally walked
It's a
over
lot
that.
of information. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's given us a lot to think. It's given me a lot.
Well, no, and there are 2 other grant programs as well. So like I said, please come talk to me, talk to Jane Jo Bronner, he's the state health mitigation officer, talk to Jared. I mean, you all deal with FEMA grant programs. And like I said, the purpose of the state plan is to just sort of get your all feelings about the benefit of the state plan for the local governments is to house feedback or how FEMA and state can do better in providing the capability to do big things. So I guess, like I said, are there any thoughts on that? Are there any programs even at the state level that are maybe hurting your ability to do stuff, or funding issues that are any maybe?
Always.
Yeah, yeah, and it's still a little bit with the Trumbull County judge there. Let's put it this way, the review process is a little bit way too long. I mean, we're receiving funds from 3 years ago.
That's right.
So you put out the type of capital outlay.
That's right.
Enough said.
No, that's a definite capability concern. And so one of the messages, as an example of that being a very good point, is that FEMA will tell you with the BRIC program and with the FMA program that they attempt, the reason why they have that priority schedule is to try to make the review process for applications like they want to put themselves on the timetable, because it has in the past taken. Now, realistically, it's still going to take time, but that is definitely something to consider, is how long, as the state, the mitigation program can do great things for your community. It is, a way to get capital projects funded effectively, efficiently, but do not expect things quickly. It can be, I had a grant, actually, we just had a grant just close out last year that is, that was 8 years in the making, and from cradle to grave, to complete. It's huge, but, thank you.
You're welcome. From what I said, I mean, if you don't have the money in your hand locally, it's tough to get it back in any reasonable amount of time. Whether it's state, federal government, it's all a question of opportunities
That is this might be, I don't, given my general awkwardness at this point. Like one of the issues that we have is once the grant is funded, the capability issue is exactly what you're saying. That all these grants are reimbursement grants, which means, so not only are you applying for $50 million, but you're also expecting to spend 25% of that $50 million. And then also you don't get the money immediately, you get it as a reimbursement. You've got to be out the capital first and then ask for reimbursement from the state and from FEMA or from FEMA via the state. So like you said, that's a capability issue. If you're on a tight budget or whatever, having $10,000, $20,000 outlays and then having to wait for a month or two, whatever, to get reimbursed can be, So do we have any feelings, I guess, about ways to deal with, or how bad of an issue is that, or do we have mechanisms to deal with stuff like that, or? Good way to put that question, but.
I'll get back with you on that.
No, we do agree that that's an issue, that can be a capability issue, the outlay, the capital project outlay. Oh, we'll stick with that, I won't be super awkward anymore with. Hey, tell me all about the budget and finance. Sure, so, no, like I said, for y'all's time, that's what I have in terms of presentation. If there's any other questions?
Nick, I know there are a lot of interest. I've seen a lot of people taking photos of these slides. Do you mind if I share your presentation?
Absolutely. You can absolutely have these slides. Like I said, what I try to do in the overall presentation is I'll go into detail about the flood mitigation assistance program. That's also another program you need to look at, especially if you have flooding issues. One little plug again is, if your county or city has what FEMA calls repetitive loss properties or severe repetitive loss properties. This is a list you can get from Division of Water from our office. Actually, the plan will have a general list of like how many of these type of properties are in each community. FEMA can fund 100% of your project for severe repetitive loss properties and can fund 90% of your project for repetitive loss properties. That's through the flood mitigation assistance program. Please look over the slides. Yes, that would be great. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Our next agenda item is the main financial statements. Frida.
First, 2023, we're 92% through fiscal year. We have our. Well, I'll go ahead, don't get it up there. Summary of our work elements, I guess when they do get it up there, the first column.
This is also in your all's packet on page 28.
The budget, and then you have your expenses and your budget balance and the percentage spent of that budget. And then under the CED group, we spent $759,353. Under the transportation, 2.6 million. The social services, we spent 4.7, maybe 8 million. And then our other local funds, approximately 362,000 for a total of 8,491,430. And then just overall, we spent a total of 24,829,789. Based on our agency line item revenue and expenditures, those are put in there by line item. And we spent, I gave you our total of spend, but we did increase our spending from last fiscal year. This time we increased about 7% more spend than we did last year. Our balance sheet. On our balance sheet, our cash is $246,935. Our receivables are 3.1 million. And that also includes our Medicaid receivable of 496,585. And liabilities are 19,525,116. Do we have any questions? Yes, are requesting board approval of our financials.
Action is requested. So we got a motion. And a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Frida. The next item is the Transportation Policy Committee that just prior to this meeting. Andy?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As Barry just mentioned, the TPC just met at 12:30 in this room. And so while we didn't have a whole lot of agenda items, we had a few that were quite important that I'll recap here right now. The first was Amendment 2 of our long range and short range plan, MPP and TIP as we call it. Amendment 2 was a group of projects that are being amended into our new MPP and TIP that were kind of the ones that we're waiting through that update cycle. As I mentioned last month, our MPP and TIP just got updated by the PPC or adopted by the PPC in May. We are eagerly awaiting the federal approval. We've got word from EPA just yesterday afternoon, that they have recommended what's called a conformity finding. That basically is a thumbs up to those documents. So we're in good shape to hear something real soon. So we've already amended it, and that Amendment 2 is some of the projects that are waiting in leave. There's a series of projects on there. Also, we discussed and granted J-Town and Louisville Metro with some what we call PL funds. PL funds are Metropolitan Planning Funds. Some of those are surplus to our needs or our ability at least to match those funds within the MPO. And so in April, we initiated a process for all the LPAs in the urban area to apply for those funds. And those funds were granted today to the city of Jeffersontown and to Louisville Metro to do their planning efforts in the upcoming fiscal year. The third one I'll mention is we had a robust discussion and I apologize for last month, our TPC meeting ran a little bit over from this discussion last month. Issues regarding the funds that are dedicated to this urban area in Indiana. Those funds to do projects with, transportation projects with are a use it or lose it situation. And here we are, about 10 days from the end of the fiscal year, with money at risk. The money at risk, it's a long story. We've gone into it the last 2 times at TPC, so I won't do it again. But nonetheless, there was a good amount of money at risk, over $2 million, almost $3 million. At today's meeting, we basically only have one option left is the view, from frankly from NDOT. We have the option to what's called flex the money to FTA, flex the money to TARP, FTA, Federal Transit Administration. What the TPC approved today was the flexing of those $2.9 million, the money that is at risk of being lost to this region. Okay, to be clear, that money would go somewhere else in Indiana. Okay, there's zero guarantee to come back to our region. And so in order to keep it local, that money was voted to be flexed to TARP for a TARP project, with TARP's commitment to focus in Southern Indiana efforts. Last one I'll mention today was what's known as our federal aid urbanized area boundary. The boundary is a smooth boundary. Okay, the Census Bureau comes up with a jagged boundary saying, hey, where is the density high enough to be urbanized? There's some major changes with their methodology in 2020 as compared to prior decades, decennial censuses, whatever the plural census is. And so we took our show on the road late last month or 1st of June or so to each of the 5 urban counties to determine where that smooth boundary would be. That helps determine other highway issues and eligibility for certain funding. It doesn't bring us more funding when we smooth the boundary, but it does determine certain eligibilities for other funds. That concludes my TPC report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
With no questions, action is requested.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion from Deputy Judge Nuss and a second by Judge Summers. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. The next agenda item is ratification of 2 contracts and the approval of 1 contract for fiscal year 24 in the Transportation Division. This can be found on page 38 in your meeting packet. Andy?
Yes, so we are rapidly entering contract season. I imagine I'll be up here in the next couple of months saying some similar things, requesting your approval of some similar things. So on this month's menu are a pair of contracts for ratification, as Jared mentioned, and 1 for board approval. I'll go briefly into each of them. The top one on your screen there, again, this is on page 38 of your meeting package. It is those PL funds. Remember, I just mentioned the PL funds, Metropolitan Planning Funds, that we ship some to the city of J-Town, to the Louisville Metro. In Kentucky, in fiscal year 24, we get on a population basis nearly 1.349 million. You see kind of in the top right of the screen. Those are the federal dollars. Those must be matched. That must be matched at an 80-20 rate. Okay, as our virtually all federal transportation dollars are. In this case, for the Metropolitan Planning Funds, the PL funds in Kentucky, KYPC actually covers a portion of that match. So KYPC covers 5%, while KIPDA is on the hook for 15%. Okay. Again, that local match there is paid for through the local dues paid by your all's agencies to KIPDA. And again, some of that match will be shared. That burden will be shared, for example, to those planning studies when we make those dollars available. The planning or the local match is shifted from KIPDA to the local agency. If it's okay with you, Jared, I think maybe we can get 1 approval for all 3 contracts.
Yes.
Okay. So the next one is ratification of a somewhat similar contract. This one is for our regional rideshare program. Okay, so that program is for FY 24 funds, in the amount of $1.2 million. Okay, that project, those funds, those are the federal funds that go to toward our branded as the Every Commute Counts program. This amount that we're seeking that's in this year's contract is for 1.204. That's a slight increase of I believe 2% from the prior year. In this case, the local match is handled very differently. The local match is exclusively paid for through the fares that the riders pay into the program. Okay, so there's no local match required by KIPDA necessarily as an agency as part of our straight out budget anyway. Okay, so again, that 301,000 is borne by the riders department. Last and then, but certainly not least, is a contract for your consideration for approval. Also related to our Every Commute Counts program, the regional rideshare program. Those folks in that department use a software called Ride Pro. Ride Pro is one of those softwares that probably saves a staff position or two. Ride Pro we are very dependent on our Ride Pro software. It handles some of our billing. It handles our ride matching, our coordination of all these van pools and car pools and whatnot. So it's a real important software for us. What is being requested today is an annual contract amendment number 6, which represents the FY 24, the next year's version of the cost for us to purchase the Ride Pro software. That includes the list of companies.
Thank you, Andy. Any questions for Andy? Motion as requested.
I'll move to approve. I'll second track.
Thank you, Chief Director. All in favor? Any opposed? Andy is up again for the contract for the Safe Streets for All grant. This is on page 39 of your meeting packet, and then also in your front folder, you'll see the resolution you'll be reading.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll give a brief update for the Safe Streets and Roads for All action plan. That's something we've talked about, over the last 6 months or so. That's the regional safety planning activities that the whole entire region of 50, 60 jurisdictions are engaged in. Virtually everybody in the room here today is a part of that. That's real exciting because we're getting ready to get some news on that. So we issued that RFQ probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. The proposals are due from the engineering and planning firms by next Wednesday. Okay, so there's real action right now on that. We hope to get somebody under contract probably sometime in July and probably get them rolling perhaps in August. That's our thought now. And then hopefully that full plan would be done. We're estimating 12 to 18 months. And for all of the participating agencies, and again, about everybody in the room, there will be a local plan, a chapter, a plan, whatever you want to call it, for each and every one of you to prioritize high-risk locations in your area, in your city, in your county, in your jurisdiction, and something that you all can rely on, lean on pretty heavily as you seek federal money through KIPDA, or just as good planning and governing practice to look at high-risk road locations. Again, probably next fall is probably when we'll conclude those efforts. Within next week, we'll have those proposals due to us. For today's business, we need to I'll start from where else. That project is a $750,000 project. It's big money project. Okay, that requires an 80-20 split, just like virtually all the things I get up in the speaker about. 150 local, 600,000 federal. The local share is paid for by many of your agencies, but for the rural Kentucky counties, not just in the KIPDA region, but around the state, KYTC has agreed to pay the local match for the rural counties local match. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, but to get their local match, and that amount becomes to $10,400, as you can see on your screen. They are requiring a MOA, a contract with them, and then a resolution from the KIPDA Board of Directors be formalized so that they can get that match money over to us. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the project in general or about today's action.
With no questions, could I request a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is the Regional Transportation Council, Randall Embry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Regional Transportation Council met at 1 o'clock here in the KIPDA Small Conference Room. We reviewed and approved the minutes of April 27th, had a county transportation update, talked about KBT updates. Carl Lauren was our guest speaker from KYTC, talked about rural municipal aid program. Also heard a report on Regional Transportation Committee activities that's scheduled through fiscal 2024. At every commute counts program. Talked about Nita Robinson, Elizabeth's program. Talked about how many vans were on the road. And as Andy mentioned, the Safe Streets for All grants, we were giving updates on that as well. The next RTC meeting will be August 24th at 1 o'clock in KIPDA Small Conference Room. That concludes my report, and I need a motion to approve.
Second. Thank you, Judge. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, this is Randall's last presentation to this board. He has been here for 22 years. He has done a tremendous job both at KIPDA and across this region, but not just that, the area development districts, we work statewide, and Randall has been the lead or backup for the regional transportation planners. And he's helped new staff that's come on the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet get acclimated to their role. So thank you, Randall. You've been a tremendous asset in serving our region for these years, and we really appreciate you.
Well, I wanted to thank the board and all they've done for our cities and counties. Also want to thank Jack Scrabber and hiring me, took a chance on me, got from Louisville. Party too much of Western Kentucky, but and you know, I had to work for everything I had, and I wasn't really good in school, but I kept on working. And also want to thank Jared and Andy for their leadership and friendship. It means the world to me. And I'm gonna enjoy retirement, golfing and fishing, spend time with my family. And one other thing that I'm going to continue to spread kindness and help others throughout this region. So with that, I'll start the charges.
We have Rachel's here, not up here. Our next agenda item is the SEDS committee report. Dustin Duncan.
Hello, everybody. I got a few more here before. Ethan Schrage of our division couldn't be here today, so he wanted me to share a report of our SEDS committee, which met yesterday. This committee oversees our comprehensive economic development strategy, or SEDS, for the KIPDA region, which is managed by KIPDA and the committee. That committee is made up of local elected officials and professionals in a variety of areas, including economic development, workforce development, all that kind of stuff. We're required to update the SEDS in coordination with the U.S. Economic Development Administration every 5 years with a more simple annual update. This is an annual update year, so it's a lot less of a heavy lift. The meeting included a refresher on the content of the SEDS and a draft county overview dashboard providing demographic data and regional information in a really user-friendly format. The committee also received a briefing on new EPA guidance, which recommends heightened focus on climate resilience, equity, workforce development, and broadband. We're strong in 2 of those areas and weaker on 2 of them. So we need some work on broadband and equity specifically. The committee is going to break into smaller groups to address those issues and bring forth recommendations. The next meeting will take place Wednesday, July 19th at 10:30 a.m. If anyone here would like to participate in that process, and you're not already participating, let us know.
Thank you, Dustin. This agenda item requires no action. Dustin, you're up again for available funding opportunities, and this will be found on page 40 in your meeting packet.
Like Jared said on page 40, there's a select list of funding opportunities for cities and counties. We curate these based on what needs we hear from you all and what awards are being put out there. Instead of going opportunity to opportunity, if you want to look these over in your own time and let us know if you have questions, we're happy to help. I also want to note that we're here to assist you all in applying for and managing grants. And we do that at really no charge because of your member dues. And it's usually in a grant budget if it's not covered by your member dues. So I know a lot of agencies are out there saying they'll help with grants for a fee. If you want to come to us first, you don't have to pay that fee. That's the whole spiel there. This also includes the brick grant, which we're going to do about today. We're happy to help with those. Also, I know some of you are either applied or consider applying for the Kentucky Product Development Initiative grant at KPDI. We're happy to assist with those.
Thank you, Dustin. Again, no action is required, and you are up again for the Regional Planning Council and Regional Water Management Council.
This is really good. So I just want to let you all know that the meetings of the Regional Planning Council and the Regional Water Management Council will be Tuesday, July 11th. The Regional Planning Council will be at 11 a.m. and the Regional Water Management Council will be at 1:30 p.m. Both will take place here at the KIPDA office and at Zoom, so whatever works best for the attendees, and no action needed for this either.
Thank you, Dustin. The next agenda item is fiscal year 23 social services business. Tricia Forbes. This can be found on page 43 in your packet.
Thank you. So as we are preparing to wrap up fiscal year 2023, we are requesting authorization from the board for the executive director to sign contract amendments, which we will then bring to the board for ratification. Basically, just going to be some minor movement of funds to have our contracts a little here, a little there, which we need to see to being able to provide excellent services. Action is requested if you have any questions.
Can I get a motion? Second. John, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Tricia, you're up again, and on fiscal year 24 social service business, and this is on page 44 in your packet.
So last month we did one contract for our procurement. So luckily this month we have quite a few to cover. But this would be for funding for FY 24 for budgeting services, our Title 7 elder abuse, Title 7 ombudsman, state law ombudsman, our 3C nutrition program, so congregate and home delivered meals. So also going to cover home care supplies, and a couple other ones. So, important to note about these is the unit rates stay the same from last year to this year. So there are some minor increases in their contracts, but again, it's all due to increases in how much we're able to serve, primarily related to meals. Those are the biggest increases. Unfortunately, we're able to serve more of our seniors in the community. We're only people to abstain from a couple of these, so can we take everything together except for those, or?
We can take everything together except for those, and we'll do multi-purpose and tri-county separately.
Okay. And so, are there any questions in reference to any of these? Should I go through each one individually?
I think it's up to the board's discretion, however you all want to proceed. Do you want to go through individually, or do you want to review and have her?
I suggest it's do the motion.
So for all the items outside of multi-purpose and tri-county, could I get a motion to approve? Motion. And a second. All in favor? All opposed? The multi-purpose item, and I know that Rachel can make note the abstentions. Could I get a motion to approve? Okay. And second, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. And then tri-county, and again, Rachel notes of the abstentions. Motion to approve. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And motion passes. Thank you, Richard. The next agenda item is Division of Social Services Program Report. This will be Jessica filling in for Vesselina.
How are y'all doing this afternoon? Good. Oh, can you stay just a little bit after?
Uh-oh.
Can you stay just a little bit for me? I don't want to forget. Just, I'm glad that you forgot.
Want to follow up with you. I don't forget. I know y'all be zooming out of here. Or I can climb up here. But, thank you all for being here today. As has been talked about, we've been doing a lot of events and services in every program. I'm gonna take a moment to personally and professionally thank Randall Embry for everything that he's done for his agency and especially for social services. When he said spread love and kindness, he meant it. I've already got him tagged for events for the next 3 years, so thank you. Always bringing love to the table. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about our 3B services and what we've been doing in those programs through the providers in our community and in-house. So 2 major things happened this time of the year in aging services. 3B is supportive services and senior center services, as well as some other things. But last month was Older Americans Month. I know I talked to you about it briefly. There were a lot of activities out there. And this month is World Elder Abuse Awareness Month, including World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15th. So letting you all know what's been happening in the community, and thank you all for those of you that have come to the events, and et cetera, and so forth. But happening in our senior centers, where Highlands Community Ministries for Older Americans a Month had creative storytelling. So seniors drew pictures and created a story out of what was happening. They had a great time doing that. You all will also have pictures in the upcoming newsletter of all of these events. It was just so much fun. I don't know how to communicate that anymore. It's just a real turnaround right now in all that we're doing. People coming to centers, we've seen about a 30% uptick in people coming back to the senior centers and the congregate meal sites. We are not where we were pre-pandemic. I do want to say that, keep you all aware of that, but we are climbing, and you know, that's great. Trimble County out there at Tri-County did a Mother's Day tea and a Make a Difference fundraiser. Henry County did a Cinco de Mayo Day, fun, right? Ice cream with the kids, cake walk, and a carnival day. They were very busy out there in Henry County in May. Oldham County did a selfie challenge with hashtags. I think we should all participate in that one. Hashtags with your selfie. Seniors reading to young kids, they're out there focused on a lot of intergenerational stuff. And a community action rally at Kentucky State Capitol. Multipurpose Community Action and Bullet did a sock hop. That was fun. Wish I could have got there for that one. And Spencer County did a senior prom in coordination with the grandparents raising grandchildren. Again, another intergenerational activity in Spencer County with music by the Lawson Family Band. I've not heard them. Have you all heard them? No? Yes? Amen. Shelby County had lunch at Cattleman's, yum, and did a movie for the Seniors for Older Americans Month. And Jewish Family Career Services at the Shawnee Community Center did a potluck, had games and tournaments, and did a senior prom that was the 1970s theme. So retired from the 70s, ballroom lights, photo booths, and door prizes. So doing a lot of amazing activities out there with seniors. Just another note, Jewish Family Career Services has taken on a yoga instructor for the Shawnee Community Center here in Louisville, and Oldham County, Tri-County Community Action Agency does an Oldham and Trimble yoga funded with ARPA funds, and they've asked for an extension into FY24 because they've had such a great response to that. So yoga and pickleball are like up here now. I don't know that I could say they're above bingo out there for seniors, but they're definitely on the rise. So maybe to apply for one of these other grants you all talk about to build some pickleball fields. I don't know, but we're definitely looking at it. Highlands is doing music therapy. That's another one that the seniors seem to enjoy. So we've been promoting that and they've been pushing it out there. I don't want to miss any of my notes. I had so many. Scam jams. Let's talk about June. I'm going to run this one and the next agenda item kind of together to keep Jared from having an announcement again. If that's okay with y'all. So we were blessed to be able to attend, myself and the executive director, Mr. Haley, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day at the Capitol. The Capitol had a giant purple ribbon laid out. We were there to witness presenting of the Champion Award, the Champ Award. We actually nominated Mr. Paul Troy, if y'all remember, Jewish Family Career Services and ElderServe. ElderServe had the Crime Victim Services Program that was a VOCA funded grant. VOCA funding fell through while ElderServe still had it. We requested ARPA. ElderServe had it at the time that they did their pause. Once they paused Jewish Family and Career Services, took that over, Paul Troy went with that program. Paul Troy has been providing services to seniors in all communities for over 20 years. So the governor presented him with the, I won't get this wrong, Champion Adult Maltreatment Prevention Award, CHAMP Award. So we were there to witness that. There were seniors present. Tri-County Community Action brought some of the seniors from the senior center up. The whole rotunda was full. It was a great day. To be there and witness and support world elder abuse. That's prevention of abuse, neglect, maltreatment, exploitation. That's our Title VII program. Also, we had Scam Jam, this month. It was on June 15th as well. So Jarrett and I were there. Some of the rest of the staff at AARP and others were here in J-Town, doing Scam Jam. They had over 250 people show up to Scam Jam. There were a little over 300 registered. So that was not anticipated in the beginning. So, you know, you're thinking maybe 100, maybe 150 people. People are turning out. So we're excited about that. Tri-County brought seniors to that as well. And then we have the honor and the privilege, I will say, that I met in person, myself and Tricia, with Elder Source staff this week. So able to talk to their Chief Operating Officer, Miss Rhonda Mitchell, and Andrea, and God bless, I hope I get her last name right, Minieri. Two great individuals, to just talk about the future of Elder Source and what they're doing to rebuild there. We've invited them to join our advisory council, and I've connected them with the providers in the area, but they seem like they're, you know, getting the foundation going. They're not looking to move quickly. They want to make sure that they're serving that community appropriately and building a solid foundation to move forward. They are a pillar here in Jefferson County, so we're happy to see that. Last but not least, fanfare. So this was our 8th annual fanfare on June 10th. In your packet is this flyer. This flyer tells you where the fans that we did not hand out on June 10th are now located. So it was a tremendous success. There were over 15 vendors, which and community partners there. We had over between Asian Disabled Citizens Office, Centerwell, Gen Care, WLKY, donations from community members, donations from staff, over 500 fans to give away. We gave away 238 that day, more than we've ever given away in an in-person event before. I'm telling you, seniors showed up. They were lined, the event started at 9. They were lined up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I kept walking outside to check on them to make sure they were okay. You need water, you good? When y'all gonna open the doors? Probably at 9, man. Got everybody in there. I got to sit at the registration desk. Also, I think the deputy mayor, Miss Nicole George, before she left. The mayor came to support Nicole George, and Councilman, I don't want to get his name wrong, Baker, who I met for the first time there. Came to support that. So yeah, it was a very successful, amazing day. People came in and walked home with fans, people came with bikes, people came with cars, people came in like loaded down with their car with seniors. So thank you all for helping us in that event, supporting that event. We look forward to next year, even bigger and better. Moving forward, and please don't hesitate to let anyone who is 60 or over with a disability know that fans are available at these locations. Please post it to your social medias, but I think I covered everything. If I missed something, I'll surely send it out by email.
Thank you, Jessica. No action is required.
The Scam Jam.
So Scam Jam. Scam Jam is directly in partnership with AARP. So it's an event that we hold to advocate and with seniors, and where we get a lot of public information, outreach information out through that event to teach older fraud abuse. It's centered around fraud. So we had some of the agencies that was presented here to the board were there. Yeah, so it's a whole event circling abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So we focus on the ones that are high, you know, that most active ones now, focus on that and possible.
That probably needs to be expanded. Something. My parents got a call the last 6 months over something like that. There's a made up story about my son was in a wreck and they got to bring cash and all that. So, I mean,
That's
that needs to be out.
that one. This is one of them. That one right there that you're speaking of is like a wave. So it comes in and it disappears for a while. And all of a sudden it shows back up. So, I'll get Fessalina connected directly with y'all so we can do something in the community. I think Oldham County has an event. Well,
We did a couple weeks ago.
thank you. They called it Senior Day.
Yeah, it wasn't Scam Jam, but it was very similar.
It was
AG's office was there. It's pretty informative. We had 60 people.
That's good. Oh, great turn. Yeah. Great turn. It was at the John Black Center, right? Yeah. So, yeah, we can definitely.
Public library would be a great place. The internet and good facilities. I mean,
We do that through our senior centers, the community action agencies, they distribute information and do some Title VII services, but to actually have an event in my community, is always best. Those of all ages show up, especially the caregivers, along with the older adults, the kids.
your bank, your local banks would probably help. Cause you can talk to the, go in your bank and they'll give examples of scams. Right.
Can I get some food? We can't have food.
Right.
We want food. Yeah, no, but we would love to for sure. Any outlet we can find to get that information out there, we're definitely. Anyway, great thing, close fiscal year 5/23. Something else, I'll see y'all this month.
Thank you,
Thank
Jessica.
you all for what you do.
Our next agenda item is the agency non-health related insurance that we get through KIPDA. This is on page 46 of your meeting packet, Frida.
Yeah. As Jared said, this is our agency non-health related insurance. And this, according to my chart, most of, well, the other two, we usually pay in a fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. But the unemployment insurance fund is on a calendar year. So that's why I put calendar year 22 and 23 on the chart. This year, our expenses, $1,040.81. And as you can see, that the change is reduced from last year, which is like a 6% decrease, and I kind of rounded so you can kind of tell when you get to the workers' compensation insurance where we are paying for fiscal year 24 at $16,916.13, but it increased by $929. And that's where I said that 6%, it's not quite the same, but it was a rounding, with both of them being 6%. And then the all lines fund, it increased to $33,226.38. And so as you can see, that change was $6,192.31, and it was a 23% increase due to premiums. I guess everything's going up, so that went to and that's all I have on it. Questions?
With no questions, can I get a motion for approval? Toby, a second. Thank you, John. All in favor? Any opposed?
I have a question, is it 23% a pretty big jump? I mean, what do you normally jump?
Well, the norm from last year in 23 was 27,000, what we paid last year, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a jump.
Yeah, we don't know what it was for 22, but.
But none of I think it was just the premiums, because I did check last year to see if any of the policy had changed, and it was the same amount. It was just the premium that increased.
And there are some levels where the premiums jump so much, they have to notify you in advance. I mean, was this fall under that category, or was it out of that range, I guess, or y'all know?
That I'm not sure, because I don't, if we were notified, it was probably before I got here.
Okay.
But I guess I can find out.
That's no big deal, that's just a big jump.
It is a large sum.
Yeah.
It was.
Michael, PECO does notify you if you have a big jump. Okay. In their insurance, trust me.
Okay, notify us, Jerry, with a beer. Or say, hey, get ready.
You got, no, wait, wait, no, the other point.
Thank you,
We did
Judge.
add one thing, I don't know that it wouldn't be a 23% increase, but we did add a drone insurance for this year.
That was not, maybe it was included in there, but the amount of coverage.
Yeah. The first year of the drone.
Frida is up again for the fiscal year 24 agency-wide budget. This is, begins on page 47 in the packet.
So, we are required to submit our budget by July 15th into the special purpose governmental entity portal. And this year, we were able to get our allocation for the Department of Aging and Independent Living timely enough to include it in our budget. So it is included, the allocations for that is included in here. Some of the changes that we made is a 5% salary increase. We did increase our legal expenses due to a possible Medicaid lawsuit. We increased our audit expenses because we took on Strothman. And we also included again, Jared's car and any related expenses to that vehicle. And we also increased the travel out of region. And those are the biggest changes. Everything else is pretty much the same.
I'll speak for a minute. First, the 5% increase, we have been instructed by the board to try to see what we were able to fit in with the rate of inflation to try to help with retention. So we were able to build 5% in. We're comfortable that we're able to sustain that. My vehicle, the board approved in September the purchase of a vehicle. We went through the state price contract. They ordered the vehicle. I'm still waiting. The last I heard, they're trying to decide if they're going to quit making the 23s and have to wait till the 24. So that's just why it's still sitting there, because we're still waiting for that vehicle to be made. But again, the 5% was done really at the instruction of the board and the chairman in particular. And if you all have any questions, we're happy to answer. No questions. Motion is requested.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you all. All in favor? Any opposed? The next item is Cheryl with the update to the KIPDA procurement policy.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is agenda item number 20. Due to recent legislative action, I'm requesting approval for an update to the KIPDA procurement standards. House Bill 522 amended a couple of the KRFs by increasing the limit from $30,000 to $40,000. The amount to which newspaper advertisement for bids to quote is no longer required to be published prior to the purchase of goods and services. And number two, it increased the amount again from $30,000 to $40,000 when a local public agency may use small purchase procedures without competitive bidding to purchase goods and services. So two good things. We got a $10,000 increase on those. So action is requested.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, John. And Kevin for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly is up with the June personnel report. And this is on page 48 in your packet.
Thank you. Page 48, it's agenda item 21. We had two new hires this month, and they're sitting behind me. Brady Hill, this is Brady. He's been hired as a transmission planner too in the division. He started June 1st. He earned a bachelor's degree in geography or regional planning from Brigham Young University and a master's degree in regional planning from the University of Iowa. He comes to KIPDA from the University of Iowa, where he works teaching and research assistant. Starting this week, here. Kyle's been hired as a transmission planner 1. He started this past Monday, June 19th. He earned a bachelor's degree in natural resources and sciences from the University of Kentucky, and most recently worked as an intern for us in Fayette Urban County government. We do have one retirement, as Jared said earlier. Randall retiring. His last day will be for tomorrow, Friday, June 30th. He plans to celebrate him next week. We do have a few vacancies still in social services. A home care case manager is still open. Budget contracts administrative assistant, although we have hired a temp for that position since this report was generated. Division of Transportation, we still have a transportation improvement program coordinator. TIP coordinator. Job descriptions for these positions can be found on our website. Our current staff count is 84 full-time, 2 part-time, permanent, 3 full-time, temporary, and 3. It's concluded my report. Action is requested to approve. If there are no questions.
Can I get a motion? Thank you, Judge. A second, Judge Summers. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kelly. And to go off agenda just briefly, we had a little bit of breaking news during this meeting. Andy, if you'd like to get up and share.
Yeah, so I'm here about 2:45 this afternoon, so we need the sound like on cable news, right? We're doing some breaking news. I mentioned during my report, our update to our long range plan, metropolitan transportation plan, our 2050 plan, and our TIP was imminent. It happened at 2:41. So we got what's called the federal conformity plan. So that's really good news. Give a lot of credit to the transportation division staff for delivering that to you all on time, and it's something we're real proud of, and it's something that we will build on in the years to come. But real good news from the federal, all the federal agencies said it thumbs up, just in the air. So I wanted to break that news. Back in old.
Thank you, Andy. The next, I guess the rest of the agenda items are with me. So the first is the Medicaid funds recoupment update. Again, going back in November, the board authorized KIPDA to move forward with potentially filing legal action for recoupment of funds that date back to our Medicaid waiver program back in 2017. We have been working with the administration as well as the Cabinet for Health and Family Services to try to get this resolved without having to go through legal action. In April, I reported that we had seen some movement. This was after our attorney spoke with the legal counsel, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. In 2 consecutive weeks, we received $6,700 paid towards our old claims. This is very nominal compared to the over 400,000. We're still that's still in question. But since those 2 payments, it was small, but at least we were encouraged that we saw something. We have not seen anything for the last 7 weeks. I met last week. I was at the Cabinet for Health and Family Services for an unrelated meeting, but I took the opportunity to speak with our contact at Medicaid, asking for an update. And she stated that it's essentially a resource issue. They don't have people that know our issue in order to try to review and approve the claims. So I again spoke with our attorney, and our attorney has reached out to the Medicaid attorney, or the Cabinet's lead counsel, and asked if we could try to have a bulk settlement rather than having to try to go through this process, because it's clearly not working. I think they realize it's not working, and we obviously know. So I think our patience is starting to run thin, and that's been relayed through our attorney. So hopefully, I was emailing with our attorney yesterday evening, and he was going to follow up with Cabinet's attorney just again to say that we've gone another week without payment. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we should have something more to report. So again, this is the thing that just keeps lingering. Hopefully we can get a result soon. So that's essentially all I have to report on that issue right now. The intergovernmental reviews. We had 2 projects, both are in Jefferson County. These can be taken together. They've been sent out for local review, and no comments were received. So action is requested for approval of these 2 intergovernmental reviews. They can be taken together. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. So that brings us to the executive director's report. First, I want to recognize Whitney Meadows and Rebecca Sedell from Senator Paul's office. Would give you all an opportunity to introduce yourself and share anything you all have for the group.
I'll take 2 seconds. Okay, Rebecca has been with our office now just a couple of months. We have, she's a great coordinator, and we haven't had that position filled for the last 12 years, but now we have someone, so I am certain she's going to be with KIPDA and all the other agencies across the state closely over the next few months. But yeah, we're certainly glad to have her. Not going back too far on the FEMA stuff, but Senator Paul put out a piece of legislation just a month ago that would streamline the FEMA process and the application process for the homeowners, not necessarily on the brick side of things, but definitely for the individuals that have been impacted by storms and need family services. So thanks, everyone. Great to see you all.
Thank you, Whitney. Just real quickly, as we end the fiscal year, we start the new fiscal year where our statewide association does new officers and new committees. I have advanced to the vice chair of our statewide association, so I'll be serving in that capacity for the next 2 years. And I'll also continue to chair our Health and Family Services Committee, which oversees all the DEL activities. And I'm also now going to be serving on our legislative committee. So just those are my activities within our state association. We have no travel for approval this month, so just finally the meetings for next month. As Dustin reported earlier, the Regional Planning Council will meet in this room at 11 o'clock on July 11th. At 1:30 that afternoon, the Regional Water Management Council will meet. Then the following day, July 12th, the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee will meet in this room and via Zoom at noon. And then on July 27th, the Transportation Policy Committee will meet in this room at 12:30. And then the July Board of Directors will meet at 2 o'clock. And at next month's meeting, Michael Gritton from Kentucky Animal Works will be our guest speaker. So this concludes my report. No action is requested. And that just leads us to other business. If there's any other business that you all would like. Hearing none.
Jarrett, would like to say that I'm truly honored to get to come on behalf of Judge Ison, but when I do, it seems like somebody decides to move on to another career or a chapter or retires. So I don't know that I want to come to any more meetings just to help. So you all do a phenomenal job, and just recently getting to work with Zach. I can't thank you enough, and I know all the counties benefit from what you all do and provide. So thank you all for what you all do.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Except for Zach, but I think.
Well, I guess that moves us to our final item, motion for adjournment. And we got a second, all in favor?